something about getting us onto YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So we discussed possibly signing onto Zoom since we have our devices. But we need to be publicly available.
Okay. Just wondering. Sorry, I'm just curious what.
Of
Thank you so much for the update.
course. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our December board meeting. I am Leah Cruzy, board chair. I want to begin by apologizing for this delay. We've had some technical issues on our end that I hope have been worked out. Joining me this evening are my fellow board members and colleagues, a few of us in person and a few joining virtually. Joining virtually, Shakura Adama Fanian, Nick Rodriguez, and Secretary Ricardo Ganjam, and joining us in person, Vice Chair Jim Sandman and Treasurer Chantel Wright. And of course, our Executive Director, Dr. Michelle Walker-Davis. This is our last meeting of this calendar year, though of course only partway through this school year. In the last few meetings, we have talked about the impact of the pandemic, the sobering results from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, also known as NAEP, and the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, also known as PARC, both of which shined a light on the urgency we all have to ensure students in DC are getting prepared with the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in adulthood. We have the tools we need: extraordinarily bright minds at all ages, talented educators, meaningful financial resources, and a governance structure that is grounded in a student success with oversight and high expectations for the adults. The School Reform Act, or the SRA, grants the DC Public Charter School Board authority to hold DC public charter schools accountable for filling their duties and obligations under the SRA. Put in other words, as the appointed authorizing body to the city's charter sector, we are the entity responsible for deciding whether a charter applicant should be given a charter to serve students, for monitoring those schools' compliance with laws and the results they achieve with students, and for closing low-performing schools. The business of this body, appointed board members that deliberate together on high-stakes decisions impacting school communities, and professional staff that operate the agency day to day, is to provide oversight for the sector, with each local educational agency, which is a charter governed by their own board, agreeing to autonomy in exchange for accountability. This structure makes charter schools uniquely capable of delivering programmatic models to meet a student's unique learning needs so that they succeed. To that end, each one of us has sworn the same oath to this city and to our country, informing our decisions by facts and in adherence to the authorizing law. With differing perspectives, expertise, and experiences, we are all drawn to our service, motivated by the promise and potential of a great education. I learn and make informed decisions thanks to what I learned from both of my fellow board members and from the devoted staff of the DC PCSB. We know that the worst of the pandemic is behind us, but we also have a better understanding today of what it will take to get our students back on track, mentally, emotionally, and physically. We also know the impact that these past few years have had on the community that makes up a school: educators, support staff, and school leaders. We are committed to doing all we can to get us all back on track in service to the students of this city. With that in mind, in a moment, Dr. Walker-Davis will speak about the revised accountability framework in development now, which reflects the shared priorities of this body. I would also like to recognize that we will have a new city council following last month's election. We look forward to working with the returning and new members of the council, as well as all the returning and new advisory neighborhood commissioners. It is a privilege to serve our city alongside so many committed public officials. In closing, I wish everyone a healthy, safe, and happy holiday and a joyful new year. I also send wishes for rest because we all have a lot to do next year. Charter applications, charter reviews and renewals, and much more. Next, we will have an update from our Executive Director, Dr. Michelle Walker-Davis.
Thank you, Chair Cruzy. Last month, I spoke at length about the various tools that we use to analyze school performance. Because of its importance, I want to re-emphasize it once again. There are 5 basic tools, including 1, our qualitative site reviews, which are the periodic analyses to assess the overall quality of the classroom environment and instruction at public charter schools. 2nd, our financial analysis report, which is our annual analysis of public charter school finances. 3rd, ongoing monitoring of each LEA on a variety of elements. 4th, our revised accountability framework, which we will talk about in the months ahead. It is a tool in development that will better help us shine a light on equitable outcomes for all students. And 5th, which we will focus on tonight, is the charter review and renewal reports, which are done in 5-year cycles to evaluate a school's progress toward meeting its charter goals. This year, 18 schools will undergo charter review or renewal, starting with 4 tonight. These review reports are an opportunity for us to evaluate the academic achievement at these LEAs and assess their progress toward meeting their charter goals. I want to echo the comments Chair Cruzy made about the impact of the pandemic on our students and school leaders and staff. We are using those lessons learned to help improve and shape the revised accountability framework. This framework, of which you will hear more and more about in the coming weeks and months, will provide a more rigorous benchmark to measure school performance. We know that supporting our students and helping them improve is top of mind for all of us. And before I turn it over to Chair Cruzy again, I want to wish everyone a very happy holiday and lots of rest. I look forward to the work that we have to do in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walker-Davis. Next, we will move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. The item, Aisha and Trisha, our moderators for the evening, will unmute DC PCSB constituents, staff, or individuals speaking on behalf of a school. The hand-raising feature has been disabled. Individuals who have previously signed up to testify will be called upon. And as a reminder, all written public comment is available to the public on our website. If you didn't sign up by sending your name to the public comment mailbox before this meeting, please submit your comments to public.comment@dcpcsb.org or call our public comment line to leave a voicemail testimony at 202-328-2660 and select option 2. Now let's hear from the 7 witnesses who have signed up to speak this evening. I'd like to invite Ursula Wright to first testify. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ursula Wright, and I am the current board chairperson at Achievement Preparatory Academy. In addition to this current board service, it is worth noting that I also happen to be a founding trustee who participated in the school's capacity interviews and public hearing that led to the school's founding many years ago. It is from this 15+ year perspective that I speak to you today in support of Achievement Prep's renewal. From day one, Achievement Prep has had a strong and unwavering commitment to families east of the Anacostia River. Our sole goal was to close what was then called the achievement gap between children from wards 7 and 8 and their peers from more affluent neighborhoods across the city by preparing our students to be high-achieving scholars and leaders who would not only excel at Achievement Prep, but also in high school, college, and beyond. And this vision manifested. Achievement Prep became nationally recognized for its success in not just closing assessment gaps, but for creating an academic environment where its students actually surpassed many of its more affluent peers. This is the rich legacy on which the Achievement Prep of today stands, a legacy that was fueled by a strong and unwavering commitment to families east of the Anacostia River. And that same commitment and fortitude still exists today and served as the guiding force behind the school's successful stabilization and improvement efforts that began roughly 5 years ago. It is also the fuel that powers our pandemic recovery efforts. And I should say, while there is certainly work for us to do before we can claim to be the Achievement Prep we want to be, we are making meaningful and deliberate progress toward being the school that we should be for our schools, our scholars, and their families. So I thank you for allowing me a brief opportunity to speak this evening, and will conclude by respectfully requesting your vote to approve Achievement Prep's renewal. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll next invite Kenneth Ward.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Ward, and I have the pleasure of serving currently as the Executive Director of College Bound. Before serving at College Bound, I taught at Paul Public Charter School, and I also taught for DCPS for over 15 years. In my capacity at College Bound, I've had an opportunity to work with students from across the city. And I'll tell you the story of 3 J's, and all of these 3 J's came from Achievement Prep. One of those is Jaden, who is now in his 3rd year at Duke Ellington School of the Performing Arts. This young man came to us in the 8th grade after leaving Achievement Prep and has embodied, I think, the promise of our city. He has certainly seen his share of challenges, but he continues to show up. And I think that this gift of showing up was instilled into him in elementary school at Achievement Prep. There's also his sister, Jayla, who is currently pursuing her degree at a new educational enterprise here in the city called New U University, which promises students the opportunity to receive a bachelor's degree in 3 years. Jayla was another one of those students who could have certainly made other choices, but because of the foundation from Achievement Prep is now pursuing that degree. The other student is Jordan. Jordan came to us from Achievement Prep and is certainly one of the students that I love most. She's actually matriculating currently in her 3rd year at my alma mater, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, on a full scholarship. These 3 students, I think, embody what Achievement Prep does and what it does well. I think there's a legacy of preparing students, and I'm certainly grateful to have worked with the founder of Achievement Prep in that capacity. And I'm also equally excited to work with Dr. Lewis as we embark upon this new chapter. There's research that shows that students during the COVID pandemic have been impacted greatly by the pandemic, and it shows that their brains have aged greatly. I think that we are poised at Achievement Prep to support those students. And what I saw during the pandemic, the outreach, the door-to-door campaigning, the knocking on doors, making sure that students had the laptops and the connectivity that they needed to stay engaged, speaks volumes about how they're poised to move this forward in the coming years. I do believe greatly that Achievement Prep is ready to do the necessary work. It's evidenced through the collaborations that they've had with College Bound and other entities, through programs like Impact Day with Deloitte, where they've allowed practitioners from Deloitte to come out and impact students who would never have these types of opportunities. So again, I think that Achievement Prep is preparing students mentally, academically, and physically to meet the challenges that lay ahead, especially in a city that needs it most. So again, I come to you tonight asking you humbly to support Achievement Prep and their charter renewal request. And of course, I support them 100%. And I think that my legacy here in DC in creating educational opportunities would lend itself to say that I would not give the support lightly. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. I'll next invite Erica Harrell.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Harrell, and I am commenting today to express my interest of Achievement Prep's charter renewal. In 2012, I joined Achievement Prep as a 5th grade math teacher and have had the absolute honor to lead in multiple roles during my time at Achievement Prep and now serve as a board member. Not only has Achievement Prep played a huge part of my life and career, the school has been more than a school for so many others. I have seen scholars and families share their appreciation and gratitude for the hard work, the relationships, the dedication of countless staff members who have worked alongside. And I have personally taught and watched other amazing achievement prep educators teach scholars who were far below grade level to gain skills, knowledge, and unwavering confidence in themselves, and a love for learning, which caused them to excel academically and as leaders. There are so many scholars who I will never forget, but I want to talk specifically about Martika and Kiana, who were two scholars who I taught my first year at Achievement Prep. They were and still are best friends and cousins. Kiana's older sister also attended Achievement Prep, and I just remember Martika and Kiana showing up every day with so much positivity, joy, and even when fifth grade math got challenging for them, they embodied our dream values, which were them showing up determined, respectful, enthusiastic, accountable, and displaying mastery. And all of this was because of the dedication, the hard work, the support from the team at the school. And so many other middle school and elementary school scholars have gone on, like these scholars, to excel as leaders in their high schools, in college, and beyond. And I know that currently and in the past, Achievement Prep has been more than just a school. It has been a promise of progress for scholars and families. And as I continue my career as an ed consultant and a member of the Achievement Prep Board, I constantly use lessons I've learned from teaching scholars like Martika and Kiana. Lessons like one that I'd like to specifically talk about is many minds, one mission. At Achievement Prep, the team works together. There are no islands, and the focus is creating joyful rigor for scholars who need it and love it and deserve it. And this is just one idea that I take with me as I continue my career. So during my time at Achievement Prep, I watched the community support the school. I know the community still supports the school, and the school supports the community. Our leaders have been a constant voice for families in Southeast DC, specifically Ward 8. And we've never wavered in that love and in that belief for our families and the leaders of Ward 8. So while I know that there are many amazing school choices in DC, I know firsthand that Achievement Prep has been and will continue to be among the best options for our scholars and families. Thank you so much for your time. And yes, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Ms. Harrell, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name earlier.
No worries. Thank you.
I'll next welcome Amber Jackson.
I don't think she's here.
We're welcoming Ms. Amber Jackson next, who I think may have just joined the Zoom.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you. My apologies. I was having trouble getting online for this.
We know how it
Okay,
can be.
so-
Glad you're here.
Okay, so my name is Amber Jackson, and I'm a parent of two scholars who attend Achievement Prep Academy. They're both Olivia and Erica Jackson. I have been a parent at APA since 2015. All four of my daughters attended APA until 2020. My daughter, Jayla Norwood, who is now the 11th grader at Duke Ellington, was the last 8th grade class to graduate 2020 at APA before the middle school closed. My daughter, Victoria Jackson, who is now a 7th grader, was the last 4th grade class before the middle school closed. Since then, Olivia and Erica remained at APA and are currently in 2nd and 3rd grade. APA has had a positive impact on my family. I have established and built relationships with so many parents and staff members at APA, especially the teachers. Before the pandemic, APA was like a second home to me. Well, it still is. I was always at APA volunteering at least 4 hours a day, assisting in different classrooms. I love being around like-minded people who show just as much compassion as I did for all the scholars at APA. I loved how the school interacted with the parents and showed us parents this was the right choice of school for our scholars. When the pandemic hit, distance learning became the new norm for all of us. However, volunteering never stopped. I interacted with all the scholars and the teachers just as if I was in the classroom with them. APA allowed us parents to be a part of this new norm. In addition, when the pandemic hit, the school instantly made the decision to keep the learning going for our scholars. APA was never an online learning entity. However, they were able to successfully become one during the pandemic. Although distance learning was a bit challenging, APA has been there every step of the way. They made it so easy to help parents during distance learning. They provided all the necessary tools to help us continue to help our scholars to learn. Staff members would even visit homes to support our parents during the pandemic. The school has evolved since the pandemic. More importantly, it has evolved since 2015. Dr. Lewis, now CEO, has been doing the work at APA. She is ensuring every day that our scholars have a future, the best future ahead of them. APA is the heart of our community. It stands in one of the toughest and violent communities in Southeast DC, where majority of our scholars reside. I can say because APA has made it a safe haven for our scholars, where they have genuine people who care about them. Within the past 7 years, I have seen so many challenges APA has faced, and yet they are still here no matter what the cost to continue serving our communities, especially our scholars. APA embodies to me that the environment we live in does not have to make us a product of it. Dr. Lewis would do whatever it takes to ensure our scholars the epitome of excellence, no matter where they come from or where they are raised. Thank you.
Thank you. I will next welcome Sinkere Bab Bloxton. Okay, if Sinkere joins later, we'll welcome them back up. So we'll proceed. Valerie Jablow.
Thank you. I am Valerie Jablow, and as a DC taxpayer, I'm commenting on 2 items on your agenda tonight. 1, community college preps applications to you, one posted for public comment and a different one included with board materials mentioned in response to a question about the property they wish to have their school at, that the property was, quote, purchased 2 years ago in anticipation of the need to provide a more convenient and permanent site, unquote. But the December board memo states that CC Prep, quote, entered into a sales agreement for the property, but not closed yet on the purchase, unquote. That means the school repeatedly misrepresented the property's ownership. Yet in both its applications, CC Prep did not answer at all or provided limited response to questions about reaching out to the external community. The school only provided as proof a letter from the ANC stating support for the new facility's construction. Together, that raises a concern that if anyone in the community might oppose CC Prep's plan, it would be much easier for the school to say its plan was approved by the charter board before its sale became public. 2, sometime before September 16th, Mundo Verde asked the mayor for revenue bonds to help with acquisition of its new site under consideration by you. At the October 5th hearing for the bond legislation, the ANC testified that the neighborhood had no idea of the school's formal plan with that site until the council member contacted her about the hearing. Mundo Verde's application to you for that site was not created until weeks later in October and posted on October 31st, the day before the DC Council approved the revenue bonds. In its application, Mundo Verde declared that, quote, due to having a non-disclosure agreement pertaining to our real estate negotiations with the owner, we have only recently been able to begin a more public process, unquote, regarding outreach to the ANC. That means that Mundo Verde decided that a public appeal in September and early October around this acquisition was not a violation of its non-disclosure agreement, while saying in its application to you weeks later that telling neighbors would be. Both schools' actions are troubling to me, and I hope to you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Sinkere on yet? Okay. Okay, the next speaker registered to speak is Morgan Jones.
Hello. Oh,
Hi, I think we can hear you. Try again.
Oh, there we are. Okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Morgan Jones, and I am the math instructional coach and science teacher at Achievement Prep. And I'm commenting today to express my support of Achievement Prep's charter renewal. Achievement Prep's mission is to prepare students to excel as high achievement scholars and leaders in high school, college, and beyond. And this is evident in the day-to-day operations of this organization. There has definitely been a heavy emphasis on building positive learning environments and building strong, authentic relationships in all spaces. With intentional professional development, weekly, and data-driven instruction from our Platinum teachers, we are working very hard to support scholars and close achievement gaps. Collaboration with our academic teams, operations, and outside stakeholders helps Achievement Prep also to be a safe place for our families and scholars. Throughout my tenure here, I have seen scholars make remarkable growth in reading, math, and social emotional learning. This leads to scholars being able to set their own goals with their Platinum teachers, and it helps scholars to be able to articulate next steps or actions for them to improve. Through instructional planning, open dialogue, and asking for the feedback to be our best, Achievement Prep is taking the appropriate steps to be aligned to their mission. I'm very proud to be a Platinum teacher with this organization. And when my son, who's 2 right now, is old enough, I would definitely want him to be a scholar at Achievement Prep as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I move us to the next agenda item, I just want to give one last chance for. Okay. Okay, next on our agenda are charter amendments. And for that, I will yield the floor to DC PCSB Director of School Performance, Melody Sampson. I would also like to invite the Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter School representatives to provide remarks regarding this charter amendment. That's Kristen Scotchmer, John Breyer, Molly Mello, and Jeffrey Krishak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melody Sampson. I am a director in the School Performance Department. Tonight, the board will hear from Mundo Verde Public Charter School regarding its request to operate its Calle Ocho campus across 2 facilities beginning in school year 24-25. The campus will continue operations at the existing facility located at 4401 8th Street Northeast and expand into a to-be-built facility located at 817 Barnum Street Northeast. The proposed and current sites are 450 feet apart. The new site will have 8 to 10 classrooms with capacity for 180 students. Mundo Verde Public Charter School seeks the additional space because the current facility is not large enough for Calle Ocho to operate its approved 600-student pre-K 3 through 5 program. Representatives from the school are available to answer the board's questions.
Welcome, members of the Mundo Verde team.
Thank you, Chairman Cruzy. This is Kristen Scotchmer. I'm the Executive Director and founder of Mundo Verde and happy to be with you tonight. I have a few slides if that's appropriate. Otherwise, I'm happy to just talk through a few comments unless you'd like to go directly to questions.
Whatever you'd like to share.
Okay. Almost 3 years into Zoom and we still it's still always a little clunky, but here we are. Are you seeing presenter view or are you seeing the actual slides? There.
Yes, we are seeing presenter.
Now you're good. Okay. So as you know, probably very well, our program is committed to a number of elements, including biliteracy and environmental sustainability. We set about replicating our program, our elementary school program at the Cook campus, with an expansion to what we now call the Calle Ocho campus in 2017. And we're before this body with different members, but at the time, requested approval for our enrollment ceiling increase, our replication process, and our location at the 4401 8th Street property. At the time, we knew and heard clearly from neighbors the concern about the impact of our campus on traffic and parking, and we committed to exploring a number of options for our eventual, what we knew then was an eventual need for an addition, and to focus not only on our building at 8th Street, but on other options. We come before you today thinking that we've got a property that meets both our programmatic needs as well as some of the neighborhood needs and our community's desires for our program. Our Calle Ocho campus has approximately 40,000 square feet and will only fit our program about approximately 2/3 of our program. We need a little bit more space to be able to ensure that our campus can grow to include 4th and 5th grade. We've gone through a series of steps, including, I'm not going to read the slide, but including a real estate search that involved looking at 5 different properties, really not really living into the spirit of our commitment to our neighbors, which was that we would not consider building on site our primary option because of what it meant for the density in the neighborhood and for the density on the property, but that we would seriously consider multiple options. You heard Melody speak to the 450 feet that separate the 2 properties. You'll see on the left side of this slide, our current Calle Ocho campus. Were we to build on site, the space available to build, if you see there are 3 connected, it is one building, it functions as one building, but it looks like 3 buildings from here. That little space in the back is what we have to build if we don't build off site. And what we are requesting tonight is an amendment to allow us to operate our addition as well as outdoor exploratory work for our students across the street at Varnum Street. This is approximately 3 acres. The blue square in the middle is because this property actually has another property connected to it, and so we will not be using the center square. Again, I won't read this, but we are very excited about what this extra space allows us to do, both in terms of living into the full replication of our model, but also providing outside space that we couldn't imagine. And we believe space to address the parking and traffic congestion that our neighbors are worried about with our growth in a way that if we built on site, we would not be able to. Our backup plan remains to build on site at the 8th Street property. This path doesn't require a charter amendment, but it is incredibly complex. It's a very tight, dense site. It doesn't address any of the neighbor concerns relative to density. It removes outside space, which is a key family concern and staff concern. And it would likely require the relocation of our entire student body in order to accomplish that construction in time. You've seen this in our application, I believe, but some of the community stakeholder feedback that we've gotten, both from family, staff, and neighbors. And this is just a timeline of our project. You'll see that we have engaged our entire community since 2017 on the intent that the desire that our program, in order to be able to operate at full scale, required an addition. We did engage our neighbors, staff, and families over the summer once we knew that our non-disclosure that we were out of the non-disclosure process with Providence Hospital, and made an announcement in July, and then subsequently engaged our neighbors in the September A&C meeting. There may have been some confusion about the difference between the bond resolution and our charter amendment process. Our intention in pursuing the charter amendment now, well in advance of the 3 months required, is to have it in place before we finalize the purchase of the land. I'll leave it at that and see what questions you have for me and for my team.
Great, thank you, Ms. Scotchmer. I first want to open questions up to members of the board here and virtually. Could we have the gallery view, Isha? It'll be easier to see other board members that way. Hi, Mundo Verde team. Now I can see your faces.
And I have folks from our finance team, both operational as well as construction finance, and our project manager on the construction project. I didn't mention that this is part of a bond resolution that actually provides for facilities financing across both of our campuses. So it allows us to refinance our P Street financing. It allowed us to purchase the 8th Street property. Both of those things have taken place. The only piece that's before you is really the location at the Varnum Street property. Though understandably, it's all connected, and entertain any questions you have about it.
I'm happy to start. Thank you so much for the presentation and information. And I know you mentioned a little bit about the stakeholder engagement that you've had with your internal and external stakeholders, but can you tell us just a little bit about any feedback or concerns that you might have heard from the families or staff and neighbors about the proposal?
Absolutely. So our families and staff are mostly worried that we won't have space and time. So their concerns are that we aren't moving fast enough, and that if and when we do move, that we will be eliminating outside space or not having enough space. So if we don't move fast enough, we won't have enough space. If we build on site, we will then be building our addition in the space that is currently used for outside play. The current proposal to move forward at Varnum addresses many of those concerns. It also addressed the concern that families and staff had that if we were to purchase a property much further away, many of the other properties we looked at were at least 2 miles away in order to find an affordable property. At that point, the concerns became dual drop-offs, commute between campuses. Am I going to get assigned to a campus where I don't actually currently have a good commute? Those kinds of concerns. Our neighbor concerns really have to do with the nature of our drop-off with young children in a very not dense neighborhood, but tight neighborhood, because there are only certain ways out of the neighborhood. Our neighbors have been very concerned about what adding numbers of students to our program will do for the drop-off. We believe that by having a second piece of land in the neighborhood, that we'll be able to mitigate some of those concerns. And I have been working with a task force of neighbors meeting weekly over the last 6 weeks to be able to move forward with an agreement that really lays out what is under our control as a school. And we have parents at the table saying, what can they commit to as parents? And neighbors saying, what are they committed to? It isn't signed yet, and it has not gone before the ANC. So it is very much a draft conversation, a draft document, which is why you haven't seen it yet. But it's one that the most closely affiliated neighbors are working with us around solutions and articulating what we need to do to be able to address their concerns.
Thank you. And how are you sharing that information back with the families and staff?
The task force, as I said, we have a couple of families at the table, and then we will be some of the things that are in the agreement are increasing, to your point, our communication with staff. So committing to a series and a sequence of staff communications, re-emphasizing what their commitment is to make sure that they are good neighbors, and asking our parent association to be active with neighbors, active with parents, and helping mitigate traffic concerns and parking concerns.
Thank you.
Hi, Kristen. Want to give you an opportunity to respond to anything that you heard in terms of the public comments from Valerie Jablow around your community engagement. Just wanted to provide you that opportunity. Then I have a follow-up question.
Thank you. I think there may be some confusion because we did, as I said, we've been talking about this project since 2017. With the pandemic, there was for sure a period in which we were not thinking about facilities and communicating about facilities projects, but we've been communicating since the spring. And as soon as our, and have a good relationship with our ANC single member, we communicated in July, far in advance of this application and in advance of our bond resolution hearing to our ANC representatives that we were moving forward with the bond resolution and with the intent to purchase the property. I presented at the September single member district, and I presented at the October ANC meeting, full ANC meeting. And then, as I said, I've been engaged in this task force, which includes representatives of, we're on the border, as I think many, that happens often, on the border of two ANCs, and this task force includes representatives from both ANCs. I'm happy to speak more to anything more pointedly if that's helpful, but I wanted to give you a little bit of that background.
Nope, I just wanted to provide you with that opportunity to go on record. I do want to talk about what is your contingency plan if the facility is not ready in 24, 25, right? So I heard you say your teachers and staff have that concern. What is the plan?
At this point, our plan would be, one of the plans that we are exploring is to have trailers on site. That's not ideal, but it is an option. The current building, there is a building on site. It has water, it has electricity. And so we could put trailers on site. John, is there anything more that you would say to that? John Breyer's our project manager on the project.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about a building not delivering in August 24, you know, what Kristen mentioned is an option. You know, we'd also be looking at what other opportunities are nearby for space if, depending on where we were with construction and what was going to be least impactful to the school and to the neighborhood.
One last thing that we're looking at is building, this is not ideal, but if needed, building the classrooms before the other space. There are some other additional ancillary spaces, and so we could prioritize the classroom spaces over the other spaces.
Okay, because right now you all have not closed on the property yet, correct? Or you have?
We have
not. Right.
Okay. When do you expect to close on the property and begin construction?
We plan to close on it probably late spring, early summer, but we are in design already in anticipation of acquiring the property. And then we would begin construction summer of 23. We've done preliminary work with a builder we have on as pre-construction, looking at project schedules and contingency schedules. We're only planning to build about 15,000 square feet, so it will be a pretty quick build and it's straightforward construction.
One last, I offer this, not big, this is highly undesirable, but it is possible, would be that we do not enroll, we can enroll 3-year-olds through, our charter is pre-K 3 through 5th grade. But if what we needed to do was to hold on 3-year-old enrollment in order to loop everyone up, so 3-year-olds up to 4-year-olds and then hold on that 3-year-old enrollment, that would be a worst case scenario. We can fit, not ideally, but we can fit right this coming school year, pre-K 3 through 4th grade in the current building. And so that would look like pre-K 4 through 5th grade. We would have some siblings that we would need to address and figure out what we do with, but that could happen.
Thank you.
Or we could have a very small trailer presence if what we needed to was accommodate siblings in order to be able to span over 1 year.
Okay, thank you, Mundo Verde team. I see no further questions. I'm just scanning the gallery view of Zoom right now. The DC PCSB is scheduled to vote on this proposal at our January 23rd, 2023 board meeting. And we will consider all public comment we receive prior to that vote.
I appreciate the time that you took today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes the public hearing portion of our meeting. Next, we will begin the public meeting, beginning with the vote to approve this evening's agenda. May I have a motion?
I move to approve the November, today is December 19th, 2022 board meeting agenda.
Second.
Thank you. I will take a roll call vote. Chantel Wright.
Aye.
Jim Sandman.
Aye.
Shakura Adamafanian.
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez.
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjam.
Aye.
Leah Cruzy is an aye. Next on our agenda, we have a charter amendment. Melody, do I keep you up here?
Yes.
Thank you.
DC PCSB staffs recommends that the board vote to approve Community College Preparatory Academy Public Charter School's request to relocate to 1806 Woodmont Place Southeast ahead of school year 24-25. The school has entered into a sales agreement for the property located at Woodmont Place, where it plans to construct a facility with a maximum occupancy of 1,200. You heard from the school about this request during last month's public meeting. Since that meeting, the school has submitted a contingency budget that demonstrates its ability to remain financially viable while operating the new facility, whether or not its enrollment increases. And I believe we have representatives from the school to answer any outstanding questions the board may have.
Let's welcome back Monica Ray, Dr. Wallace Henry, and Andy Botticello. Welcome back this evening. Thank you for the, wow, you're moving around our screen right now. Hi. Thank you for all of the correspondence that your team has had with our team over the last several weeks in addressing some of the questions that this body presented to you at last month's meeting. I'd like to first invite board members that may have remaining questions for some of that follow-up material. And if members of the community college prep team would also like to offer any context to that. Seeing none. Oh, Monica, did you want to see if you were?
I was just preparing if there were answers or questions.
Okay. Okay. This is a whole new skill to try to read the room when the room is virtual.
Absolutely it is.
With some fun backgrounds, no less.
So a community college prep, I'll just ask you the same thing that I asked the last school, if you wanted to have an opportunity to respond to the comments you heard at public hearing, if there's anything you want to say in response to Ms. Jablow's public testimony.
Sure. As I understand it, there are probably two primary concerns raised on Ms. Jablow. The first was the indication that we had somehow misled the board by saying that we had purchased the property 2 years ago. I believe my testimony reflects that we entered into a purchase agreement 2 years ago to purchase our property. A copy of our sales agreement was submitted to Ms. Sampson in our earlier packages. And the second is a question about the intensity of our community outreach. We rely heavily on the ANC structure to talk to community. We visited a total of 3 ANCs, the ANC that we exist in currently, the ANC 8A that the new facility will be in, as well as 8B, a neighboring ANC that our parking lot actually touches. Based on the current construct of our elected officials, that is the best and most efficient way for us to talk to community outside of our students. We rely heavily on our quarterly town halls to interface with our students. At our current site, as we represented, our current lease there ends in June of 2024. And we've had neighbors who necessarily don't like the fact that our students come and they park in the neighborhoods. So one of the things that has become a finding in our outreach has been that we are no longer a nuisance to the neighbors who are there, who were walking through their backyards to school at night. So I am comfortable that we've done a sufficient job at outreach. I don't know, and I can't speak to the timeline in which things are posted to the charter school site, but I think we've done a sufficient job at talking to those people who are most affected by our move.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, I will now entertain a motion. Excuse me.
I have a couple of questions related to the financial implications of the transaction. We addressed this at the last meeting, but I just appreciated if you could confirm for the record your understanding that our board has not approved and has not signaled any intention to approve the enrollment ceiling increase that's the premise for your preferred use of the property. Is that correct?
Absolutely. For the record, totally understand that this transaction is not contingent upon your approval of our cap increase at all.
And have you informed your lender of that we have not approved and have not signaled any intention to approve? And are they comfortable with your alternative in the event that you do not get the enrollment ceiling increase?
Yes, sir. As I indicated in our package, our lender's underwriting was based on the base assumption that there would be no increase. So all of our pro formas have been laid out at a 600 flat enrollment number, and the deal pencils at 600. So there's no liability that if we don't get the increase, that we're still able to finance this deal.
That resolves my concerns. I appreciate your responsiveness.
Thank you very much.
Nick, did I see that you had a question?
It was actually just a quick comment to piggyback and just to thank both the school for kind of hurrying up with the contingency budget so that we could have that here and not have an approval with conditions, and to the staff and the team for having done the legwork to make that happen. I think it gives us all a degree of comfort as you know, I'll be voting to approve. And I think, you know, appreciate your kind of acknowledging that, you know, this says nothing about the sort of merits one way or the other of a future enrollment ceiling increase, not sort of in favor of them. I think that the important thing was not to make it appear as if the board would have no choice when that decision reached us. And look forward to considering that request when it does come. So thank you all.
Well, we thank you for the interaction and thank Ms. Sampson again for all of her work. And we appreciate the additional questions that also keeps us true to our mission as well. So thank you.
With that, colleagues, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the charter amendment request of Community College Preparatory Public Charter School and approve the DC PCSB board chair to sign the charter agreement amendment on the board's behalf.
Second.
Chantel Wright?
Aye.
Jim Sandman?
Aye.
Shakura Adama Fanian?
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez?
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjam?
Aye.
And Leah Cruzy is also an aye. Congratulations, Community College Prep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Melody. Next on our agenda, we have charter reviews and renewals. And for that, I would like to call forward DC PCSB's Neda Musa, Review and Renewal Specialist for the DC PCSB School Performance Department. And I would also like to welcome the Sella Public Charter School representatives to provide remarks regarding this charter review.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Neda Musa. I'm a senior specialist in the School Performance Department. Tonight, the board will vote on the charter review and renewal of the following schools: Sella Public Charter School, Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School, Center City Public Charter School, and Washington U. Yang Public Charter School. The following charter review standard applies to Sella Public Charter School. The School Reform Act stipulates that DCPCSB shall review a school's charter at least once every 5 years. As part of this review, DCPCSB must determine whether the school committed a violation of applicable law or a material violation of conditions, terms, standards, or procedures set forth in its charter, including violations relating to the education of children with disabilities, and whether the school failed to meet the goals and student academic achievement expectations set forth in its charter. If DCPCSB determines that a school has committed a violation of applicable law or a material violation of the terms of its charter or has not met its goals, the board may, at its discretion, revoke the school's charter or grant the school conditional continuance. Additionally, there's a fiscal component to the charter review. Per the School Reform Act, the board is required to revoke a school's charter if it determines that the school has engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, or is no longer economically viable. I will now read the following charter renewal standard once, and it applies to the following schools: Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School, Center City Public Charter School, and Washington U. Yang Public Charter School. The School Reform Act requires charter schools to apply every 15 years to renew their charter. The law says the board shall not renew a school's charter if the school committed a material violation of applicable laws or a material violation of the conditions, terms, standards, or procedures set forth in its charter, including violations relating to the education of children with disabilities, or the school failed to meet the goals and student academic achievement expectations set forth in its charter. Additionally, the board is required to revoke a school's charter if DCPCSB determined that the school has engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, or is no longer economically viable. Sella Public Charter School is up for its 10-year review. The school educates 281 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 5 at one facility located in Ward 4. The school adopted the PMF as its goals. In doing so, Sella Public Charter School committed to achieving an average PMF score equal to or exceeding 45% at its 10-year review. The school met its goals, earning an average PMF score of 64.4%. Additionally, the school adopted 2 mission-specific goals that measure oral proficiency in English and Hebrew. Sella Public Charter School partially met one of these charter goals, and DCPCSB could not render determination for the other. DCPCSB staff determined the school has not committed a material violation of law or its charter, has adhered to generally accepted accounting principles, has not engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, and is economically viable. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends that the board vote to continue the school's charter. Sella Public Charter School representatives are available to speak about the school's performance over the past 5 years and to answer the board's questions.
I first want to welcome the Sella PCS school community. I also want to acknowledge, for those who celebrate Hanukkah, we recognize that we're in the second night of Hanukkah tonight, which may be rather inconvenient for members of your school community. And so I want to apologize for that. And want to invite you to offer any comments before board members who may have some questions and have some interaction.
Chairwoman Cruzy, thank you very much. My name is Josh Bork. I'm the head of school at Sella Public Charter School. And thank you, Chairwoman Cruzy, and thank you, board members, for having us here tonight. We have a brief video presentation for you, just highlighting the diversity of our school. And then we're going to go into a very brief slideshow just about some of our accomplishments over the last 5 years. I appreciate the wishes for Hanukkah. We did a little early in my family, but it is good to recognize that we are a diverse community, and only about 10 to 15% of our families do celebrate Hanukkah. So I'm going to attempt to do amazing things with Zoom and share my screen, if you give me a second. Okay, everyone can see? Yes, good. Okay. All right, and here is our brief video presentation, followed by some slides.
Public Charter School 10 years ago to be a diverse by design pre-K3 through 5th grade charter school right here in DC. We use language immersion as a tool to engage students in the world and to be able to have the skills to take action in the world as global citizens.
I'm Renee, I'm the Hebrew director.
And I am Katrina, the director of the elementary.
Stella has diverse staff, and the benefit is better opportunity for creativity and problem solving, to know each other culture, differences, language, tradition, food, music, and more.
Yes, we are very intentional about listening to one another and being patient and trying to understand each other. We have different opinions and different perspectives, but the staff at Stella has one common goal, and that is to help our students. Hello, we are the pre-K team at Stella Public Charter School.
As a Hebrew teacher, I really would like to have the opportunity to work with an English teacher because it complements some of the strategies and the performance that I'm employing in the classroom.
And I like the diversity and learning about the different cultures and holidays and those kind of things.
And for me, I like to take a different style teaching from the English to Hebrew and listen.
And I like the experiences and the exposure that the children who are not from this particular culture, I like that they get in these experiences.
So why Hebrew language, or why Hebrew immersion program? To that, I would say, why not Hebrew language? When we were considering schools for our children, I'd say the main criteria for us was to have them in a language immersion program. What was a little less important was what that language was. And so we were really open to considering, everything. Particularly because as somebody who grew up speaking another language, I recognize that language really begets language, and especially exposing kids to languages at that young an age makes it subsequently easier for them to learn other languages as they get older.
So that was our brief video presentation with a number of community members at Stella. And what I'd like to do now is go into a quick little slideshow. I know we only have a couple of minutes. Let's see. Can everyone see the slideshow? All right, thank you. So we're going to talk quickly about what's happening at Stella, or in Hebrew, Ma Koreh B'Stella. So first, just a reminder of our school mission. We're a public charter school that offers children of all ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds in Washington, D.C., from pre-K3 to 5th grade, the opportunity to achieve academic excellence in a safe, nurturing environment that focuses on Hebrew language immersion, promotes the value of diversity, and provides the skills for taking action in the world. We really have a two-part mission. Hebrew language is part of that. So as we've matured, we've deepened our language learning model. We now have a 50-50 immersion co-teaching model up through 3rd grade, and we're continuing to expand that model up through 4th and 5th grade over the next 2 school years, which is very exciting for us. The other piece of our mission is diverse by design. We actively cultivate a diverse student population and faculty to teach all community members the value of diversity. We know that research shows that students' exposure to other students who are different from themselves and the novel ideas and challenges that such exposure brings leads to improved cognitive skills, including critical thinking and problem solving. So Hebrew is our pathway to this diversity mission piece. And just some highlights from us. Ikiri Hadvarim. First off, we were honored this year as a Blue Ribbon School by the Department of Education, which was very exciting for us. Our second big highlight from the last couple of years is enrollment growth. We stopped adding new grades in the year 2018, but we've continued to grow as a school, bucking some sector-wide trends, especially by increasing enrollment in our pre-K program. Another big highlight for us is our COVID reopening. We were one of the first LEAs in DC to reopen for in-person instruction in November of 2020, and then further reopen in January of 21, and then March of 2021. For us as a language immersion school, being in person was incredibly important. And as soon as we were able to do so safely and have our community buy into doing that, we were able to do so. The other big piece for us to highlight is our community satisfaction. For each of the last 3 years in annual staff and family surveys, we've had over 90% of both groups, families and staff, who have recorded they are satisfied or very satisfied with our school. Especially given the challenges of the pandemic, that was for us a very big accomplishment. And that is my brief presentation. I hope I kept it to the allotted amount of time, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have about our school.
Thank you so much for that. And congratulations to the school for the accomplishments you've seen thus far. I'll kick off some questions. I'm so intrigued to hear more about the oral proficiency. What does the I stand for? And understand that that had to be suspended during the pandemic for a period of time. And I also understand that the N size was a bit small at some point for the older grades. So I'd like to hear more about how it's kind of being reinstituted and how there have been ways to increase the number of students who are able to access that assessment because it's so unique to your mission.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So the oral proficiency interview is the ROPI assessment. It's a format of assessment that we've based on ACTFL standards. And it's an assessment that we build in-house because it's an interview that's based on the units of study that the students have completed during that academic year. So we don't have students at a disadvantage if they're new to us in that particular year. N sizes for us have been small. My first year, which was 5 years ago, we only had 6 fifth graders. This year, we're fortunate to have 17. So we've been growing in that regard. I think for us as an immersion school, when we're doing a test like the OPI, there are manipulatives involved that the students are using as part of that interview. And there's a face-to-face dialogue between the interviewer, the teacher who's doing the assessment, and the student. So the pandemic really presented a lot of challenges being able to do that remotely. Almost all of our fifth grade in the 2020-21 school year was remote. The whole class elected to remain remote that year, so it really presented a unique challenge for that grade. And because second and fifth grade are the only 2 grades that we submit those scores for, we weren't able to get a full sample size for the fifth grade.
But I'll just add, this is Dina Fox on behalf of the board. We are in person fully as our other schools, and so the exam will be able to be conducted going forward, and we will have, because of our larger class sizes, we will have larger sample size. We have though admitted students in older grades in recent years. Our original charter we did not admit students after second grade. We now do, and so some of the students who've been admitted in later years have fewer years of the language, and so we expect that obviously will impact their proficiency as we go ahead and think through what our standards as a school should be for students based on their years in language rather than just their grade level. And that's a conversation that the school leadership has been having.
Hi, Josh and team. Congratulations for getting to your 10-year review. That's pretty big. So what I'd love for you to do is to really just kind of characterize what this time has been like for you all. Share with us. You shared it via video, some of the accomplishments and things, but I'd like to hear from you directly about what you're most proud of. And then also to just let us know as a board, what weaknesses are you focusing on addressing and what can we look forward to from SELA moving forward?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So I think the things that I'm most proud of are the fact, again, that as a community, we've come through the pandemic very strongly. I think we've been able to continue to grow. We've had improving retention of families over those years, which has been a big thing for us. And I think just the fact that we are able to each year come closer to meeting our mission of being a full immersion program. Being a Hebrew immersion program presents unique challenges. Partially because only a handful of our students are native speakers of the language, but the opportunity presented by everyone approaching something new in learning the Hebrew language in our community is really a beneficial thing for us. So I think that the fact that we've continued to grow, the fact that we continue to build out the program for me are really, really big highlights for us. In terms of how we can hopefully continue to meet expectations, as I said, we're continuing to improve our immersion offerings. So this year, our current third grade cohort was our first cohort in elementary that began this 50-50 co-teaching model. It's great for us in many ways because not only does it provide more exposure to the language for students, it also gives them a chance to have more teachers in the classroom. It's a partnership between an English teacher and a Hebrew teacher in each of those classes. So the intercultural dialogue that the teachers are able to generate is really an amazing thing. The fact that we've been able to bridge what were initially some divides between our Israeli Hebrew-speaking community and our American community of teachers has really been a fun thing to watch. We've also, over the last couple of years, been able to offer our American teachers a chance to teach English as a second language in Israel over the summer. And I think that's also helped to sort of bridge some of those gaps that exist. And for us, learning from each other, learning about the value of diversity is key to everything we do. So the more that we're able to talk about, how our differences can bring us together is really the biggest accomplishment that I can see. As we move ahead, I think the last bit is just continuing to grow. Up through third grade, we have 2 classes per grade. We're looking to extend that all the way up through 5th grade. So hopefully we can get closer to our enrollment ceiling and continue to grow that way as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for sharing information about the about the school and your journey. And also it's notable the kind of the reopening sort of story that you all told. I wonder, as you look ahead to the challenges, like what do you want to accomplish? What barriers, what challenges do you want to overcome in the next 5 years before you get to charter renewal time? I noticed, for example, and this is not isolated to you, but you all weren't immune to the sort of the changes in results that occurred in Park this last year, like anyone else. So I wonder how you're thinking about that and how you're thinking about the future.
Sure, thank you. I think as with many schools pre-pandemic, we were on a really good trajectory in terms of improving test scores. The biggest challenge for us coming back was figuring out how to balance the reintegration of students socially and emotionally into the school community with the academic needs that we knew students would be coming in with that were greater than the past. The 2 big ways that we've been able to address this, and I think it's been successful, and we'll see those successes further down the road, is our initial focus in bringing students back was to really pay a lot of attention to the social emotional needs of our students. We spent a lot of time doing a lot of team building, group work, and just building back the comfort level of students, because there was a lot of fear at the beginning. We opened up early, not just among students, also among staff. And I think that, and parents especially, we can't forget the parents' fears in this whole thing. So I think that, opening up the way we did allowed us to really address a lot of those needs, but we know that the work is not finished. We've also been able to be very effective in our use of recovery monies to be able to hire additional staff to really meet individual needs of students, because the pandemic has affected every student in different ways, regardless of where they're coming from. So the fact that we've been able to individualize so much of the recovery has been a really good thing for us. So I think my goal is to see how that plays out and really to think among the charter sector as a whole about how each of us have taken different paths in the recovery of the pandemic to really see what's been effective and what's not. Because as we move ahead, students will always be entering our schools from other places. They'll always be coming in with different challenges. So the more resources we have pooled and the more knowledge we can take away from how we've each done recovery and what's been effective is going to be great for our community.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd love to hear more about your philosophy of and approach to diversity. You mentioned at the outset, I believe you said that 15% of your families observe Hanukkah. Could you describe in more detail the diversity of your student body? And could you tell us how your philosophy of diversity, that is the benefits of exposure to people and cultures different from your own, actually plays out in the student experience? Can you give any examples?
Sure. So actually, this is part of a discussion we were having today. So we at Cella made up a little holiday. We call it International Diversity Day. So the third Friday in January, we celebrate International Diversity Day. We invite families in. That's been a little shaky since the pandemic, but before and again this year we get to do this where we really want community members to celebrate their different heritages and to begin to learn from each other. So for us, it's something that we live and breathe at the school. We want people to recognize that we're all different, we're all learning something different, and we're learning together. So it does really bleed into everything we do. And I think especially with the staff, we like the fact that our staff is such a diverse staff and is unique among a lot of schools in DC for its diversity. Our student population, which is given the constraints of the common lottery, reflects very closely the student population of DC. I think in especially ways that a lot of dual language charter schools do not. Part of that is our target language. I think that because we have a unique target language, we attract all sorts. As you saw in our little video presentation, parents who don't necessarily have any connection to Hebrew or to wanting to study about Israel are interested in us because of our program and because everyone's coming in fresh. So I think that that's really a big part of our strength, and the fact that we try to practice it at every level of the school. So if you look in a classroom, it's not just the students, it's the staff. If you sit in on a team leadership meeting, we're all coming from different places, but we're all trying to learn together and work together, which I think is the strength of the school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you know, the DC PCSB conducted a QSR at Sella during the 21-22 school year. Which I think means last year. The QSR team rated 64% of observations as distinguished or proficient in the instruction domain, concluding that the students had some limited opportunities to engage in rich academic discussions in both English and in Hebrew. Comparatively, the QSR team had rated 77% of those observations as distinguished or proficient during the school's last QSR, which had been in the 16-17 school year. Can you share with us whether or not Sella has adjusted its instructional choices in response to the QSR findings or any other factors?
Sure. So I think, we were very aware of the fact that we were not scoring exactly how we'd like to in that. So a process we've engaged in this year, we've brought in an outside consultant to do an examination of how we're doing specifically reading instruction this year. Budgets being what they are, we were not really going to do a full overhaul just yet, but we wanted to make sure that we were bringing someone in to see how we're doing instruction on a general level and what we can improve. For our Hebrew program, we're looking next year into building out an additional Hebrew support position that'll be able to develop a richer instructional program by splitting the responsibilities that's currently held by one person over the Hebrew program into an early childhood component and an elementary component. So we think that will allow for lessons that engage students more and are able to just provide higher quality instruction for our kids and better training for our teachers and how to instruct, especially in Hebrew, because I think Hebrew, again, I keep saying this, and you'll forgive me if I'm being repetitive. Hebrew is a really unique target language, and it's a rather small language. I kind of joke with friends at Yu Ying that if you want to find a teacher, it's got to be a lot easier than it is for me. There are very few Hebrew speakers in the world, and there are even fewer qualified Hebrew teachers. So for us to find really good people, train them in teaching, not just in an American school, but in an urban American school, presents challenges. And it's a challenge we engage in and we enjoy, but I think that's part of it for us. And so our response to that has been to bring in some outside help for the English instruction and to bring in some greater in-house expertise within our Hebrew instruction.
Just speak from the board's perspective, we took very seriously the feedback that we received in that review and appreciated the quality of the review and the information that was shared in the report. And so we worked with the leadership team after receiving that information and looking at all of the rest of the academic data that was coming in last year in light of the pandemic challenges and wanting to make sure that we can continue to improve and see the kind of results and instruction in the school that we certainly expect. And that is, and the school leadership team is working, as they mentioned, with folks that we think are really going to continue to help strengthen what's already a very strong and capable teaching program.
Thank you. That's helpful context. Board members, if we have no further questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move to continue the charter of Sella Public Charter School.
Second.
Thank you. I'll take a roll call vote. Chantel Wright,
Aye.
Jim Sandman,
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez,
Aye.
Shakura Adama Fanian,
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjam,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank
Great
you very
work.
much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you to do this again in 5 years.
That's good.
Next on our agenda, we have 3 charter renewals. And tonight we will deliberate regarding the charter renewal of Achievement Preparatory Academy PCS, Center City PCS, and Washington U Ying PCS. I'd like to invite any members of the board that may need to recuse themselves from any of these decisions.
This is Chantel Wright. I'm recusing myself from Achievement Prep. I'll be leaving the room.
Thank you, Ms. Wright.
Hello. Hello, this is Shakura Adamafanian. I'll be recusing myself from Achievement Prep and I'll be signing off.
Thank you. And we will notify these board members when this matter has passed to welcome them back in. Okay. First up is Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School. As Netta Musa is already in place to make her remarks, I would like to welcome the Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School representatives to provide remarks regarding their charter renewal. We have Ursula Wright, Sarah Lewis, and Coy Nesbitt. Welcome.
Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School is up for its 15-year renewal. The school educates 229 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 4 at one facility located in Ward 8. The school adopted the PMF as its goals. In doing so, Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School committed to achieving an average PMF score equal to or exceeding 50% at its 15-year renewal. The school met its goals, earning an average PMF score of 53.4%. DCPCSB staff determined the school has not committed a material violation of law or of its charter, has adhered to generally accepted accounting principles, has not engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, and is economically viable. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends that the board vote to continue the school's charter. Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School representatives are available to speak about the school's performance over the past 5 years and to answer the board's questions.
Welcome, Achievement Prep board members and staff and leadership.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite you to make some remarks.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. I am, of course, joined by our board chair, Ursula Wright, and our director of operations, Coy Nesbitt. But first of all, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Walker Davis and PCSB staff, Chairwoman Leah Cruzy, and board at large for the opportunity to come before you today. I am Dr. Sarah Lewis, the proud executive director of Achievement Prep. As you know, Achievement Prep was founded in 2008 as an expanded middle school starting at 4th grade, breaking stereotypes about what was possible east of the river. Our mission is to prepare students to excel as high-achieving scholars and leaders in high school, college, and beyond. And we believed that this is 3-generational work. If we change the lives of our scholars, then we change the lives of their parents and future children. Achievement Prep opened its doors at a time when there were no high-performing middle schools in our area. We strategically and intentionally located in Southeast DC in the Washington Highlands community. Led by leaders of color since its inception, with a majority staff that resemble our scholar population, even a couple alumni that return to give back to their community, Achievement Prep is a community school, open to all and focused on our surrounding community. We have the honor of serving a part of the city where students have been underserved, with 87% of our scholar population deemed at risk. Over the years of our initial charter, Achievement Prep has lots of successes and similarly, lots of opportunities for improvement. After continuous years of high performance, we experienced steep decline when we grew too fast and did so during the city's transition to Common Core. After several years of turnaround, we were on a positive trajectory for improvement, and that improvement is continuing, though stifled by the pandemic. Like all schools, we have had a variety of challenges over the years, but we've met each one with determination, resilience, and commitment to our mission. Data shows that strong results are well within our reach. Our enrollment is slowly but steadily increasing, and initial interest from My School DC is up 72% as of last week. For the last 2 years of the PMF, our elementary school made double-digit growth. And right before quarantine, our park projections showed double-digit growth again, projecting numbers on Tier 1 trajectory. We made 31% growth on the classroom environment domain on the 21-22 QSR, thanks to our focus on ensuring that our classrooms are warm, calm, and respectful spaces. In our most recent math park administration, our scholars achieved a level 3+ at a higher rate than scholars across the public charter sector. And on the 2021 ELA park, our scholars with IEPs and at-risk performed on par or better than the all-scholar group. We have had clean financial audits every year since our founding, and of that we are quite proud. Improving instructional outcomes, though, for our scholars has and will always be a priority focus for our scholars, and the pandemic has amplified that need. We know there's so much more that our scholars need that we can provide. And per the report, we recognize this is also a concern of the board, and we welcome additional visits to see progress in that area. This work looks like 3 things. 1, attracting and retaining talent. The market is tight for all schools, and we have to make Achievement Prep a place where the best teachers want to be and thrive, as indicated by scholar performance and outcomes. 2, honing in on rigorous work. We have to raise the bar for what is possible for our scholars. We have to make sure every minute of learning is not only joyous, but rigorous, hence joyful rigor. And 3rd, working with interventionists, coaches, Linda Mood Bell program, and other high impact tutors to provide small group intervention and pandemic recovery to every scholar every day. We know that we have to continue to push grade level content, and we know our scholars were among the most impacted. We will need to do in 1 year what should have been done over 2.5, and that will take an entire village. None of this matters if we don't have scholars. And we know the number 1 way to address enrollment is to have high outcomes for children. So that is our first and foremost priority. In addition, with such a competitive market, we also know that it's important to improve our value proposition, so we become the go-to school for our community. Looking ahead to what we hope will be another 15 years, we are partnering with a strategic planning firm, North Star Education Partners, to develop a clear and straightforward strategy. Scholars, families, teachers, and community members are contributing to this effort as well. And before I close, I'd like to take a few moments just to publicly thank our scholars, our families, Platinum teachers and staff, our board of trustees and community members for helping to make Achievement Prep what it has been over the past 15 years. We couldn't do this work without you. We are especially proud of our alumni who are proving every day that their education at Achievement Prep set them on the course to be the change they wish to see in the world. And I also want to recognize this board for your support of us all these years, as well as your thoughtful consideration for our continuance. With today's vote, we hope to continue our work And at this time, my team and I welcome the opportunity to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lewis, and thank you. I had the opportunity to visit the school a few months ago and very much enjoyed that. Ms. Wright, want to name your service to the board. You mentioned earlier today that you are founding trustee for Achievement Prep.
That is correct.
So I'd like to open it up for, and Mr. Nesbitt also, thank you for your service. I'd like to open it up by inviting some reflections. It was 5 years ago that this board spent time with Achievement Prep, but also there have been times within the last 5 years and times in the last 15 years. Would love for you to share some reflections on what you're most proud of and what you look forward to. Sarah, you named a couple items here that you really want to focus on in the next few years, but just invite an opportunity to elaborate on that a bit with reflections and what you look forward to.
I apologize, Leah. Was that directed straight to Ms. Wright or?
It was actually to the full team, but I think I started off with Ms. Wright.
Sure. Well, I'll be quick. I think what I am most proud of over my 15 plus year journey with Achievement Preparatory Academy. And in that journey, there have been years where I've served on the board, where I've been an officer of the board, and there have been years I've been a friend to the school. But what I'm most proud of is the unwavering commitment. When we had, the idea of Achievement Prep, it was literally a notebook and a big black binder when I first became affiliated with the school. We were quite honestly counseled by a number of folks throughout this city to target somewhere else in the city other than Ward 8 to be. We were very committed at that particular point in time to open up where there was the greatest need, and we thought we could do the greatest good. And I know over the years there have been opportunities for us to relocate elsewhere. There have been incentives to think about sort of housing Achievement Prep elsewhere. And we've never wavered from that commitment to serve the Ward 8 community. And so what I sort of smile on most fondly is the fact that we never walked away from what could have been deemed as a hard road. And stay committed. And so I think it's that commitment and resilience, as I mentioned in my statement earlier today, that really is the heart of what Achievement Prep is to the community we serve. And it is that resilience, that commitment that has powered us through many ups and downs over the years. And we always sort of end up in a place where we are doing right by our families. And that's what makes me most proud.
With the undercurrent of this resilience, I think it's also important to name our commitment to making sure every scholar gets what they need. Right? There is not a day that you could walk through the building and not see that a scholar is getting their social needs met, their emotional needs met, mental health needs. We are constantly connecting our families to those services. When scholars fall behind, as they have, especially the exacerbated gaps from the pandemic, we come back and we come back hard every time. And so it is that optimism, it is that past, it is the journey that we've had there that assures me again and again that we can do the work, especially as it relates to the instructional gaps that we've seen, to come back strong and to be just as resilient to make sure scholars continue to get what they need, especially on the academic front.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome questions from other board members. Ricarda.
Yep, sure. Thank you so much for all the great work so far and the information this evening. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the shared facility with Digital Pioneers and kind of how's that working out and how are you viewing that for the future?
Thank you for that question. Yes, the relationship with DPA is actually going very well. We have seen them settle into the building. We're in regular communications with them. We are also both benefiting from serving families of siblings in grades pre-K 3 through 6th grade. And so so far we have been enjoying the relationship with DPA, and we'll maintain communications with them on the future as well.
Specifically, like with your expansion to grade 8, how does that impact the co-location with Digital Pioneers?
So we are definitely keeping that in mind. Our plan is to continue to assess where we are, what our growth strategy is, as Dr. Lewis mentioned, with our strategic planning partner. This is something that we are analyzing also in cooperation or in partnership with EdOps to determine what is the future look like with DPA or without DPA on the campus. And so our goal is to use that analysis to actually make an informed decision in moving into the future. But we definitely want to do our due diligence to look at numbers and what that will look like in the future.
Just to put a finer point on what Koi said, the contract terms are 2 years with sort of an optional 3rd year based on sort of the strategy he just outlined for you. So in case you were looking for the specific contractual obligation.
Okay, great. And from a student perspective, are there any interactions between the students or completely separate student experience?
They are separate student experiences at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Has the school taken steps to respond to the qualitative site review that our staff conducted during school year 21-22? And if so, can you describe them in some detail?
Absolutely. One of the data points that stood out to us during that time was the increase in terms of the classroom environment piece, because we'd really spent the time coming back in person, really honing in on the social, emotional experience of our scholars, making sure that it was a safe space, getting scholars accustomed to being back in the building and having those experiences. I'm sure, like you've heard from many schools, right? But our 3rd graders returned after not being in the building since 1st grade. And so there are developmental things that come into play there. And so we were pleased to see that jump in the growth for a classroom environment. However, we were deeply disappointed by the instructional piece. And so that is honestly where we are spending the bulk of our time now that our container and our climate is where we'd like it to be and continue to grow. In terms of instruction, the work that we're doing specifically around Tier 1 instruction with our instructional coaches really honing in on rigorous work, honing in on potential misconceptions from our scholars, as well as the actual work that's being put in front of our scholars. We call it worthy work, right? Is it worthy work? Is it grade level appropriate or above? And then what questions are we asking scholars to really get them to do the critical thinking? In terms of Tier 2 and Tier 3, that's where our partnerships are coming in to play, where we're working with our high impact tutors to help us close some of those gaps. And we are ensuring that every single scholar on our campus has small group intervention every day. And those are the areas that we're really focusing on for the instructional piece.
Thank you.
Sure.
Seeing no further questions, colleagues, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to approve the charter renewal of Achievement Preparatory Academy Public Charter School and renew the charter for another 15-year term.
Second.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a roll call vote. Jim Sandman,
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjam,
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez.
Aye.
I am also an aye. The ayes have it. Congratulations.
Thank you
Congratulations,
so
everyone.
much. Thank you all so much. We look forward to 15 more years of extraordinary service. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day, guys.
Can't wait to visit well before then.
Yes.
And Aisha, we can welcome back Shakura and Chantal. Next on the docket for charter renewal is Center City Public Charter School. And as Netta is already in place to make her remarks, I would like to welcome the Center City Public Charter School representatives to provide remarks regarding their renewal. We've got Tom O'Hara, Laura Berger, Nia White, and Russ Williams. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
I think we still have a board member who is on her way back on.
And Leah, just a quick, Ms. Crucy, quick correction is Nia White with Center
you.
City. You're welcome.
Thank you. And Naya, please excuse me. Welcome back, Shakura. We've got the Center City team here. And Netta is here. All right. Everyone's in place. Welcome. We'll continue.
Welcome. Center City Public Charter School is up for its 15-year charter renewal. The school educates 1,396 students in pre-kindergarten 3 through grade 8 across 6 facilities located in wards 4, 5, 6, and 8. Center City Public Charter School adopted the PMF as its charter goals. In doing so, Center City Public Charter School committed to obtaining an average PMF score equal to or exceeding 50% across the 5-year review period. All but one of Center City Public Charter schools campuses met their charter goals. Center City Public Charter School Trinidad did not meet its goals, earning an average PMF score of 42.4% during the review period. Consequently, Center City Public Charter School did not meet its charter goals outright. In accordance with DC-PCSB's COVID-19 impact policy, Center City Public Charter Schools Charter Agreement includes the COVID-19 impact provision that states the DC-PCSB board can determine the school met its charter goals if the school earned an average PMF score equal to or exceeding 40% on data available during the review or renewal period, and a PMF score of at least 40% in the most recent available year of results. As stated earlier, Center City Public Charter School Trinidad earned an average PMF score of 42.4 and earned a 43.1 PMF score in school year 2018-19. thus making Center City Public Charter School eligible for this provision. Per the school's charter agreement, if the board continues the school using the COVID-19 impact provision, Center City Public Charter School shall be subject to conditional continuance. The school must submit a plan describing areas of improvement and the specific strategies the school will use to improve student outcomes, focusing on growth among kindergartners to second grade and math outcomes for all students. The plan must also include a description of how the school will measure its academic progress towards meeting its goals, noted in the review report. Additionally, the school must report its progress on the plan in its annual report each year leading up to its next review. DCPCSB staff determined the school has not committed a material violation of law or of its charter. It has adhered to generally accepted accounting principles, has not engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, and is economically viable. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends the board exercise its discretion to apply the COVID-19 impact provision to renew the school's charter with conditions. Center City Public Charter School representatives are available to speak about the school's performance over the past 5 years and to answer the board's questions.
Welcome. You look like you're about to speak, Russ, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, no. I was just listening intently to make sure. I didn't want to jump in until it was the right time. So if this is the time to say a few words, let us know. But if we should be patient, that's great.
Please go ahead. We'd love to welcome the team and hear some remarks from you.
Okay, great. Well, good evening. With me tonight are our board chair, Tom O'Hara. I think as somebody else already pointed out, our excellent principal of our Congress Heights campus, who leads one of the top performing schools in the city, Miss Naya White. And then our director of data, Ms. Laura Berger, has joined us as well. So I appreciate everyone being here, and thank you to Public Charter School board members and staff for having us this evening. If I may slightly break protocol and say hi, Chantel. It's great to see you up there. And it's 16 or 17 years ago, before Achievement Prep, which just got renewed, first started, I remember talking to Chantel about vendors who could save her money. She called me at my office and was like, who do I get for the, who should I use for this? So anyway, I know I'm breaking protocol, but I wanted to at least
Thank you, Russ.
You're welcome. I want to acknowledge that I've known you for a minute. We are, of course, Center City Public Charter School. We operate 6 campuses across the city, and we are nestled into neighborhoods. We consider ourselves to be a family of small neighborhood-based schools. And those neighborhoods we serve include Congress Heights, Capitol Hill, Trinidad, Shaw, Petworth, and Brightwood. So we are from south to north, right down kind of the middle of the city, hence the name Center City, operating in all of those neighborhoods. And some of our buildings, we're so nestled in the community. One of the Shaw property is over 125 years old, I believe. So we are in some historic old buildings, and we're pleased with the presence in neighborhoods, which is where we believe schools should be. So we're small neighborhood-based schools, right? And our focus and emphasis is on empowering our students for lifelong success through 3 kind of core values: building strong character, promoting academic excellence, and then generating public service throughout Washington, D.C. And one of the things beyond our academic program that we take a lot of pride in as a network and family of schools, we know and we believe in and know that we have a really strong curriculum in place, a curriculum that's coherent, that's connected, it's cumulative, all the things that really strong schools have in terms of driving strong outcomes for students and families they serve. We have a strong character ed program. We believe that student experiences are vital to strong academic programs. So we have a lot of opportunities for students to experience things hands-on and firsthand. And we believe that the arts are critical to, again, finally balancing out the well-rounded programs and well-rounded students. So we do really rigorous, strong curriculum, really good work in terms of character education, a lot of work around student experiences, and a lot of work around the arts, drama, dance, music, movement, all of the different things. And whether we have it as an elective or whether we have it as sort of our core programming, it just depends on the building's capacity and the interests of our students. And so we're a school that has continued to minor hiccups at one of our campuses, but across the board, and even at that campus in the last couple of years, we've continued to improve a little by little, year over year, sometimes a little more than a little, but our improvement is incremental. We continue to move in the right direction. We can continue to build on the prior year's progress. And while there was certainly a hiccup during the pandemic, we were not immune from that. We have come out of the pandemic in a pretty strong position relative to a lot of LEAs in the city, and we feel good about the work we did. Part of that, we believe, is a blend of our neighborhood-based and small school, the nature of our small schools, the quality of the teachers and leaders in our building. We have a great core of veteran teachers and a great core of veteran leaders that enable us to do tremendous work. So we are as good as our teachers and leaders make us, right? With a tremendous team of support staff at our central office. And Laura is one of those folks who does amazing work in terms of the data support for our organization. And I can say the same thing about the great technical, finance, HR, all the different supports that our folks get. Like our team works really hard to kind of allow our schools to focus on the work of teaching and learning. And so we want to just, for us, it's about knowing that we're doing like really good, putting really good and challenging work in front of kids. And then all of these experiences, opportunities, the arts, the character, all of the things that we know are important in terms of rounding out a school day and making a school experience in a school a place that any kid would want to be. You want to have kids that are happy to be in your schools. We have multiple award-winning campuses. We have multiple award-winning school leaders. This is the DC Public Charter School Board. You have 60 something LEAs that you work with. Many of the LEAs, some of whom are listening on this call, or listening to the call, and many of other LEAs have made overtures to any number of our staff people through the years. And for up to this point, we've had a lot of people choose to stay, which we're proud of and we're happy. And that's not always going to be the case, but we are trying to create an environment at Center City where, like, for our students and families, for our teachers and leaders, like for everybody that's involved in the work, that it's a place that people want to be. And we continue to look for ways that we can continue to innovate and improve on the student experiences and access to the arts and things like that. And I'll close on one of the exciting things we're looking at is the opportunity to create like a real hands-on applied learning science center and makerspace that will allow our kids to access even better science than we're able to do in our buildings. And I don't need to get into the minutia of all that right now, but when you're in 125-year-old buildings, there's only so much you can do to a science classroom. So creating a space like this creates an opportunity for our kids to do some really tremendous hands-on science work and to do it regularly. Not like a special one-day field trip, but something they can build on and return to and keep working on. So the real definition of project-based learning and applied learning. So we're here and happy to answer questions. We appreciate the board's consideration and we appreciate the work staff has done to get us to this point. So I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Cruzy, and we're happy, the team is happy to answer questions from the board.
Thank you very much for that. And congratulations on getting to this point. Principal White, again, I apologize. As someone who goes by Leah and Leia and whatever anyone's going to call me, I know how it can be with mispronunciations, but I would love to open up with a question for you to reflect on your very impressive leadership over the years and what you're most proud of. Particularly in the last few years, it's been a unique challenge. Would love to hear some of your reflections on that and as well as what you look forward to in the coming years.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize, but I am going through my own little sickness and illness, so I apologize for my voice. And I apologize for any Cocomelon or Blippy that you hear in the background. I just can't outrun it. It's just going to be what it is. I'm sorry. I would like to start by saying that the, I guess, biggest accomplishment or biggest thing to be proud of is our students and the choices that we've been able to build them to make. It's been a really good journey to see them in this space right now where they have multiple high school options in front of them and they're mystified and baffled. Like, that's their biggest problem. Which one do I choose? And that's a choice that they didn't have 11 years ago. It was, I have to go to this school because either that's the only option that I was given. My family's been to, I don't want to name particular schools, but X school for all of our generational life. So that's just where I'm going. And to be able to get them in the space to break that, excuse me, so that they can see other things that are out there. I took a group on a shadow visit a couple weeks ago to Holy Cross, and they were just, this is, oh my God, look at the campus, and the sisterhood is strong here. These are their comments. And to be able to put them in a place where they can apply, they can be accepted just at the same rate or better as anybody else who applies there, and be able to do well. Greatest thing I've been able to accomplish or see and experience, being able to bring them that.
Hi, Center City folks. Hi, Russ. It is good to see you guys here for a 15-year renewal. So congratulations for being here. I'd like for you to talk to us about what's going on at Trinidad and where you guys are in terms of your response, how you're feeling about it. We see that Trinidad was part of the targeted support and improvement schools. Describe kind of what you're doing and implementing at Center City, Trinidad, to get the results that you want, that look like the rest of your schools, et cetera. How's that going in terms, particularly post-COVID and the recovery that all schools are going through? Talk to us about that campus specifically.
Sure, happy to. And some of you all may recognize the name, but the building has been led for the past few years, and some of this may not have been noticed with the pandemic, but Brandy Tyson, who had been leading our Shaw campus back 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was, maybe 6, 7 years ago, when they were a high-performing Tier 1 campus. And then she left us for a year to go to the Department of Parks and Recreation to take a high-level role there, and then came back and agreed to take over at Trinidad about 4 years ago or so. So, Ms. Tyson had been a Tier 1 principal and had started doing the work of getting the campus moving in the right direction. And basically, the end of her first full year there, you had the pandemic kind of come hitting in. And so it just kind of halted the momentum a little bit. But, we're now in what we consider like the second full year since the pandemic for operating the school with Ms. Tyson and her team in place. I mean, that's a building that currently has no openings. The team, for the most part, I think she turned over 2 or 3 people year over year, mostly by choice, not by attrition. She has a veteran team of people, her people in place in the building, and they're doing, really good cohesive work. Ms. Cruzy was able to visit, I'd say maybe 4 or 6 weeks ago. And, the building, you can hear a pin drop. The kids are focused on learning. There's a lot of joy in the building. It's organized. The building looks and feels different. The emphasis there is on teaching and learning. The work of that team, Ms. Tyson, like Ms. White, Ms. Tamelli, or other veteran award-winning principals, is a known commodity in terms of, I believe she's previously been a Washington Post Principal of the Year finalist. I think she was running one of our higher performing schools in the district at the time she left us. Ms. Tyson is a big believer in a lot of project-based learning, about of like using data to inform the instruction. She's doing a lot of work in terms of, using student work analysis protocols to develop standard-based strategies to implement small group work. Again, doing a lot of elements of the real specific data intensive work that we see, like Ms. White using at Congress Heights. This is what good leaders do and get their staff to focus on, and they do good work. So that, one of the things she wanted me to point out, she's traveling internationally tonight, but they've created a standards-based rubric that directly aligns with the park. They use like grading and empower students to help understand where they are in terms of their own learning. So they're sharing data with students. They're scaffolding. They're doing all of the work that we know successful schools do. And so in terms of what's happening at that building, I think it's a story of what was happening up until about 4 or 5 years ago, and what's been happening since Ms. Tyson got there. So the building is in a much better place in terms of the day-to-day, teaching and learning that's happening. It's in a better place in terms of the stability of the staff there. That group has been there now for a few years in a row together. So they're building on the progress of the last couple of years, despite the pandemic. So I think we all collectively as a group feel really good about what's happening over there. And, we're kind of cautiously optimistic that there were some bright spots in their data last year, and we know that they have some things to build on and get a little bit of momentum, coming off the pandemic, that this should be a pretty good year for that campus. And we know that we'll believe that will be reflected in the data at the end of the year. So, we have pretty good track record across the other 5 campuses in terms of defining what needs to happen in high performing buildings. And we know what those practices are. And it's just making sure we have the right leaders in place to implement them and to hold teachers to account. So.
Thank you. And when you think about the next 5 years to come, what do you plan to focus on specifically? So besides just Trinidad, what if you had to name kind of your 3 top things that you plan to focus on and want to be able to, brag about? And God, what will it be, 2028? Oh, that sounds so long.
I'm gonna throw one out there, and then I'm gonna ask Naya to throw one out there, and we'll kind of come to by osmosis to the third one. But I think, for us, I think it's in 5 years, I think we'd like to be known for beyond the character and the good educational programming we're doing, that we're like doing STEAM really well as well, like the project and applied arts and engineering and technology type work that we're looking to facilitate more of at like a makerspace. So I guess, again, our data doesn't lie. We know we can do better at science, right? So we want to be better at science, and we're making the investments to be better in science. But as a part of that, science it's like the whole STEAM, right? The science, the tech, the arts, the engineering, the math. So bringing all of that together into life in that space, I think will help broaden the definition of what we're doing well at Center City, and will be more attractive to more families. So I think that's one of the big ones. Ms. White, you want to chime in on one of the other big 5-year rocks?
Just given the given the state that a lot of society, especially society's children, are in, really doubling down on producing good people, good young people, folks who make sound decisions, folks who appropriately stand up for what's right, for themselves, for their neighbor, so that they are contributing to making this here controversial, conflicted world here a little bit better, starting off with their communities and their city, and being able to evolve outward from there. But definitely being good folks. We need it, they need it.
Yeah, and I think that go ahead.
I would like to chime in as the board member. I think you're seeing a strong team here, which is what we're proud of, with Russ as our president, Naya as one of our top principals, and Laura does a great job briefing the board. And having a strong board and a strong president makes a strong institution. But the forward thinking of Russ and his team, of looking to the future and developing better programs, improving the buildings, give our board a lot of hope that you're going to, if we've done a very good job for the last 15 years, but I think we're going to double up and double down on that. And it's all about the people and the principals and the staff, and our track record has been really good on that. And we're also very optimistic with Brandy at Trinidad that you'll see the performance there. But it's all a team effort, and I think we continue to have good momentum.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Center City staff. Again, congratulations. I echo the same sentiment. Congratulations on getting to this point. This is what we want to see, of course. Kind of going back to the Trinidad question, I'm curious to know what sort of unique and specific supports is your central office team providing that campus versus other campuses? I know we're celebrating the new principal and the work that it sounds like she's already doing to move the school in the right direction, but curious to know what additional and unique supports is your center office providing the school for turnaround purposes?
Sure. Laura, do you want to tackle that from the POW perspective, and then I can layer in others?
Sure. I think the biggest piece there is, we had a lot of students, that really needed more rigorous and intensive supports. And so we've actually added several new staff members, specifically around intervention. So things focusing more on making sure that those individualized supports based on all that data work that Ms. Tyson or that Russ referenced is, and just making sure that there are, more kind of more supports for students at an individual basis. In terms of individual support from central office, I think, part of the transition when Ms. Tyson came on board was, getting those staff and in place and coming back year over year so that culture was not only from Ms. Tyson, but was for the entire organization, the entire school, to make sure that everything from pre-K to 8 looked consistent for families. And I think that's really helped in terms of overall families being happy and overall increases in re-enrollment. We've seen increases in re-enrollment since Ms. Tyson got there as well. I was going to say, Russ, anything else to add in terms of individual supports at Trinidad?
No, I mean, I think the organization is committed. We have a little bit less enrollment at that building, but it's still similarly staffed because the data has indicated that there's a need in terms of like supporting the students. So there's additional intervention support, there's additional, SPED support, like looking to make sure you're putting in additional staff supports to bring down student teacher ratios, bring down small groups, trying to create an environment where they can, do data informed instruction and close the gaps and then sort of build upon, the work they're doing and go forward in a positive manner. So I think we're trying to address as many of the targeted supports as the building can handle, and we're continuing to invest in that school at a similar level to all of our other buildings, despite it having slightly lower enrollment. So, we're trying to make sure we're targeting investments where the needs are. So I think we're also doing a lot of work in terms of social and emotional, but that's which we think informs the learning, and have provided Ms. Tyson in all of our buildings with additional resources in that regard. And we think those things matter and have an impact, but that they're a little bit softer, if you will, than more direct instructional interventions.
Yeah, Russ, also, I think the uniqueness of the Center City is the 6 campuses and the support that the other principals give to each other. And so, the principals do help each other. And I've, from a board member point of view, observed how important it is that the 6 campuses are working together and they pitch in and help out on Trinidad when they need it. And that's very encouraging from a board perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Do I have any additional questions from board members?
I move to approve the charter renewal of Center City Public Charter School and renew the charter for another 15-year term with the conditions as proposed by staff.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. Jim Sandman,
Aye.
Chantel Wright,
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez,
Aye.
Shakura Adama Fanian,
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjam.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Congratulations, Center City.
Congratulations, you all.
Congratulations.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Thanks for having us. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think you need a cord.
Finally, on this evening's agenda for charter renewal is Washington U Ying PCS for a 15-year charter renewal. And as Netta Musa is already in place to make her remarks, I would like to welcome the Washington U Ying Public Charter School representatives to provide remarks regarding their charter renewal. So joining us will be Carly Fischerow, Melissa Volpe, Amy Quinn, and Lamar White. Okay.
Welcome, Washington U Ying. Washington U Ying Public Charter School is up for its 15-year renewal. The school educates 604 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 5 at one facility located in Ward 5. The school adopted the PMF as its goals. In doing so, Washington U Yang Public Charter School committed to achieving an average PMF score equal to or exceeding 50% at its 15-year renewal. The school met its goals, earning an average PMF score of 92.5%. DCPCSB staff determined the school has not committed a material violation of law or of its charter, has adhered to generally accepted accounting principles, has not engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, and is economically viable. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends the board vote to continue the school's charter. Washington U Yang Public Charter School representatives are available to speak about the school's performance over the past 5 years and to answer the board's questions.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight and letting us share a little bit about Washington U Yang. Before we share a little bit more about us and our unique community and our model, I first wanted to thank the Public Charter School Board staff for their patience and their support throughout this process. I wanted to thank Dr. Walker Davis, PCSB Chair Cruzy, and of course, my team who's joining me here, Amy Quinn, Director of Teaching and Learning, Melissa Volpe, Chief Operating Officer, and Board Vice Chair, Lamar White. I also just want to share my deep appreciation to Makita Alexander, who is the former Executive Director who led the school through the application and renewal period that we're talking about tonight, and has been a true legend for the school and the school community. So big thank you to her. So we're proud of everything that the report highlights for us as well, and are in agreement with the areas for opportunity and improvement. We would love to tell you just a little bit about who we are, because we are a unique model offering a super special program to more than 600 students here in Washington, D.C. Washington U Yang exists to inspire and prepare young people to create a better world by challenging them to reach their full potential in a nurturing Chinese and English educational environment. We are also an IB-PYP school and are guided by our 5 core values: nurturing, diverse, collaborative, rigorous, and innovative. U Yang creates global citizens through our dual model, starting with a fully immersive program in pre-K 3. 100% of our students' day is spent in Mandarin. They then progress in kindergarten and first grade to a 75-25% model, with 25% of their day in English. And by the time they're in second grade, they alternate a full day in English and a full day in Chinese. They experience the same IB content and curriculum, but just in dual languages. Our students come from all over DC, from different families with different backgrounds, and we believe that our diversity is a hallmark to who we are and one of our greatest assets. We're also fortunate to have a talented team of educators who have been phenomenal in both shaping and delivering the model for our students. And finally, we are super proud of our founding families and our continued parent involvement. U Yang was founded by a committed group of parents, and our parental community is a huge part of who we are. We have a robust parent association that is open and inclusive to all families. They play a significant role in informing and shaping our decisions, and truly show up as partners. And finally, we think of our campus as a magical third teacher or third staff member. We have a 43,000 square foot building, a 1-acre nature center, and it truly does feel like an inclusive and special sacred haven, kind of in the middle of the city. Our campus provides an open space to spark wonder, curiosity, and critical thinking, and is something that most, if not all, of our community members name as one of their favorite parts about going to U Yang. Over the past 5 years, U Yang has been a top performing elementary school. We've received a 5-star rating on the 2018-19 OSSE School Report Card, have been consistently rated Tier 1, and most recently on our PARC scores, we saw a 6% increase as compared to the 18-19 school year on our reading results. We also saw strong growth and performance for both our English language learners and students who have IEPs. But Equally as important is the way that our students performed on their Chinese stamp and level Chinese assessments, which I'm hoping you'll ask a question about and Amy can answer more. Because while, PMF as goals is what we are holding ourselves accountable to, teaching students how to speak, listen, and write and read in Chinese is core to our mission. Over the last 5 years, we've also placed an increased emphasis on the Chinese cultural experiences for our students and our staff and our families, social emotional learning, response to intervention, mental health, and we've stayed true to our value around innovation. Yu Ying is one of a very few campuses in the city to have an on-site daycare for our staff. So 8 of our staff have young children who can be taken care of right on site through our OSCE-sponsored daycare. We also are committed to equity, and we are one of 11 schools to pilot the equitable access preference this year. And we saw a 25% enrollment increase through this equitable access preference in pre-K3. Like all schools, we were gravely impacted by the pandemic, and we have seen that our students from the most vulnerable communities were hit the hardest, and we have the most work to do with them and on their behalf. So we're doubling down on our 3 pillars: social emotional learning, our learning environment, and Chinese immersion. We're also taking our steps to make sure that we're improving the opportunity gap for students designated as at risk, particularly with a focus on ensuring that they both learn and love Chinese. Yu Ying is a great place for learning, and I'm proud to have been chosen as its next executive and current executive director. We are appreciative of the Public Charter School Board's recommended approval to renew and are happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Yu Ying team, and want to start off by congratulating you on getting to this point. 15 years is quite special, and then also acknowledging Makita Alexander, who I don't think is on this call, but whose hard work is reflected in the report that we have been reviewing for tonight. As a matter of housekeeping, I want to acknowledge that one of our board members may need to be stepping away. Nick Rodriguez has a family matter that he needs to attend to, so may not be on the call hereafter. But going back to this, you mentioned, Carly, that there is a question you hoped that we would ask. So I want to open by inviting further elaboration on what the school is so proud of over your work the last several years. And also, I would be most grateful if, as part of that, you also acknowledge some areas that you hope to specifically target in the next couple of years.
I'll go ahead and jump in and start with what I think what I'm most proud of at Yu Ying. Based on alumni feedback, I'm most proud of the foundation that we lay with our students in developing lifelong learners, those who can access ways to learn through a variety of modalities because of how we teach and how we help them to recognize their strengths and areas of growth throughout their elementary career. Our alumni come back and tell us how much the way that they have learned, as well as the fact that they have had the opportunities to learn in 2 languages throughout their elementary years, have helped them to be able to access learning in middle school and high school. And then also we now have alumni who are finishing up their college career, or at least the undergraduate part of it, that they have been able to continue to utilize practices and skills that they gained at Yu Ying. And so for an elementary school to have had such an impact on these diverse students, I think just demonstrates that foundation of learning is so important and building those lifelong learners. In terms of our challenges, I think that as we're coming, as the last 5 years were, big part of those were pandemic years. And coming out of those, we're having a much stronger challenge with staff and student well-being, with mental health needs and social emotional development. And while we had prior to the pandemic begun actually quite in-depth work on building both staff well-being and student social emotional development, we have realized that we need to begin to go further with that and really better understand the new social emotional needs and new staff well-being needs coming out of the pandemic. And so I think as we move forward, that's Carly mentioned one of our pillars is social emotional, and across the community, that is an area where we are doing that deep dive of analysis of what's needed and how we can shift our practices or improve our practices in order to meet everybody's needs.
Thank you for that. Other board members, Ricardo, did you have a question?
Yeah, just listening on that, so powerful, and thank you for the great work you've been doing in the city. I did want to ask, I know in the past, Yu Ying has expressed some interest in increasing the enrollment ceiling and potentially opening a second facility. And just wanted to ask, what are some of the indicators you're looking at, and how are you thinking about that today?
Yeah, so the team has done a substantial amount of work. They've really been thinking about growth and how they can serve the most students with a high quality immersion program since their founding, right? How can they effectively serve all the students who want that without diminishing program quality? And Yu Ying has had, as you know, a very strong enrollment and re-enrollment rate. Most recently, we had about 1,000, just over 1,000 applications for 122 new seats this year. And so we continue to maintain a long wait list and high demand. And so the team really over the last, certainly right up until 2018-19, where it feels like time froze and then we are starting to thaw out again. They did substantial work, with partners like Bellwether to lay out green lighting criteria, to figure out the both internal and external measures that would need to be in place. That got put on pause with the pandemic, but they had done a lot of work both with those green lighting criteria as well as community engagement to build buy-in and understanding of why grow, where to grow, and for whom to serve. And then in the last year, the team made the decision with the equitable access preference that we wanted to serve more students, particularly students designated as at risk. That was core to who we wanted to be. And that we wanted, if given the opportunity following this 15-year renewal, to be able to expand and apply for an enrollment ceiling increase and add a future or expanded campus. So we've started taking some steps to do that. We have explored and are planning a partnership with Washington Latin and hope that we will be able to go through all of the appropriate processes and approvals to be able to add that campus and to serve more students in the coming years.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. So it sounds like more to come.
Yep, more to come.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we lost the main room. It looks like we lost the main room. Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes, we did. I will be in contact with the team to see what's going on.
Thank you.
Yep.
you can never tell whether it's on like your end or on everybody else. So you're like, did it go out on my side?
Yeah, right.
I think Zoom is on break too. Zoom is over it.
Yes.
Zoom's ready to wrap it up. That's funny.
Hopefully they'll make it back in just a moment.
I'm getting communication that in their room, the Wi-Fi went out. So I think once they're able to establish some form of internet connection, they should be back online shortly. Thanks for your patience.
Yep. Yes, thank you for that. And just heard that they are on their way back in. So hopefully we'll see them momentarily.
Excuse us.
I see them.
We're back.
Yay.
Excuse us. Our apologies for that interruption. And we were in the middle, I think, of the response to Ricardo's question. Yep, about growth.
Yep. Had some good discussion, and it sounds like growth is in the future. And we can look forward to expecting even more from Yu Ying. I think we may be ready for a motion.
Well, before the motion, I would like, Carly, congratulations on your appointment. If you could just talk to us as the new executive director, kind of what some of your priorities are for this upcoming, let's do, well, you tell me 5 years, but what are some upcoming priorities as a new executive director?
Yep. And thank you, Chantal. It's really great to see you. And congratulations on the achievement prep vote and all of your tremendous work there as well. So it's also great to see you. So I think as a new executive director for Yu Ying, my priority for this year in the beginning was really just to learn, really to step back and watch and see and observe, talk to families and staff members. I conducted listening sessions. I tried to meet with every staff member one-on-one, and I conducted about 60 listening sessions with staff. I did the same thing with families and met with about 50 families. I just wanted to hear from their perspective, and also with students, what makes the campus really feel and be so unique for them. I've too often been a leader ready to fix a problem, and I really wanted to lean in and understand what made Yu Ying special before coming up with additional priorities or work. I would say what I think the school is on the horizon for the school and where my priorities are. As we just shared a little bit, we do have hopes and vision for growth on the horizon. And so making sure that we do that carefully and while honoring our programmatic quality and all the things that go into thoughtful and careful growth, strong staff community, staff retention, recruitment efforts, making sure that we've got leadership development pipelines and staff coaching and development programming in place, and that we're continuing to strengthen our delivery of the IB model and our Chinese immersion model, particularly, again, for students designated as at risk, those who may have identified learning needs, and students who join us after kindergarten. We find that all three of these student groups need additional, much more intervention and support and connection and care than those who maybe start in pre-K3, for example. So really making sure that we have a systematic and effective and data-driven approach that's targeted to those students and their families is critical. And then I would say the last piece is connected to the staff development and coaching program, but we're in a different hiring and education market. So we really need to make sure, as Amy Quinn shared, that we have strong SEL and mental health and well-being initiatives in place for our staff as much as for our students. So those are really our what's on the horizon for the next 5 years, and doing our program better. The last thing I would say is we are also sort of on a mission to make sure that speaking Chinese is cool for kids. They don't have a lot of natural motivators to speak in a language that's not their, first language. And so you have to create those kinds of meaningful and authentic experiences for them to talk to alums or talk to leaders in the field, and just finding ways to make Chinese cool and fun for student to student interactions is also an important priority.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as my fellow board member mentioned a moment ago, it may be time to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the charter renewal of Washington U Ying Public Charter School and renew the charter for another 15-year term.
A second.
Great. Roll call vote. Ricardo Ganjam.
Aye.
Shakura Adama-Fanian.
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez is now absent. Chantel Wright.
Aye.
Jim Sandman.
Aye.
And Leah Cruzy is also an aye. Congratulations, Washington U Ying community.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, y'all.
Doing great work. Congratulations.
Keep it up.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next, we will vote on the consent calendar. Would any board member like to remove an item from the calendar for further discussion or state a recusal for the record? Okay, colleagues, I will now entertain a motion for consent calendar items.
I move to approve all items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. Ricardo Ganjam.
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez is absent. Shakura Adama-Fanian.
Aye.
Chantel Wright.
Aye.
Jim Sandman.
Aye.
Leah Cruzy is also an aye. Is there any new business? Colleagues, I will now entertain a vote to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the December 19th, 2022 board meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Chantel Wright.
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjam.
Aye.
Shakura Adama-Fanian.
Aye.
Nick Rodriguez is absent. Jim Sandman.
Aye.
Leah Cruzy is also an aye. See you next year.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.